Okay, for today's assignment, you're going to need a piece of paper, pencil, and something to trace. Now, you can either trace your hand or have somebody trace the outline of your face. Now, I highly recommend using your hand. As a 6th grade class, I don't expect anything too overly complex in terms of the actual figure. We're using the positive and negative space. Now, once you trace your your hand, notice I'm keeping my pencil vertically, straight up and down to trace my hand. Okay? Now, I'm doing this specifically since you're not always going to be doing this within my classroom. Once you get your hand traced out, I want you to go ahead and clean up your lines just a little bit. And then you're going to decide which part of the paper you're going to use. You can either use the positive space, which is on the inside, or the negative space, which is on the outside. Now, remember, the object itself is this. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to fill up the spaces. Now, in this case, I want to go ahead and fill up the inside of my hand. And you're just going to go ahead and put random designs and fill the space completely with 2 different designs. So you want space on the inside, space on the outside, so that it can change what you're looking. So the designs on the inside can be whatever you want. Now I'm going to go ahead and do some very quick sort of mandala flower sorts of deals for parts of it. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just going very quickly to try to go ahead and fill up the space as fast as I can. Now, in your case, I want it to go ahead and be something that represents you. Now, in this case, I'm choosing a specific type of flower that I very much like to create this sort of effect. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw, let's say, the outline of my mountains back home in El Paso where I grew up. Now, I'm going to go ahead and add a sun. And notice I'm making these shapes very big. You want to give yourself lots of space as you're filling up the image. That's my little my river from back home. It's not my river, but it's the river that I'm familiar with. And I'm going to go ahead and put I'm going to put a cactus over here. And I'm just filling up this space. So this represents who I am. It's a good portion of who I am. Now, this is where I come from. This is an example of where I come from. But that doesn't mean that this is where you come from. So I want you to really think about things that represent who you are and where you come from. And we're going like I said, I'm going very, very quickly just to try to get some sort of design in here as quickly as possible, because again, I'm making the inside things that represent me. Now, once you finish filling up that space with things that represent yourself, what I want you to do is fill the outside space with something that represents your future. So this is your past. Do something that represents your future. So I'm going to go ahead and trace a little bit darker for my outside of my hand. Clean up the shape of my hand. Now, you can color it, but I am not going to make it mandatory that you color this. So this represents my past. And then I want to fill the outside with something else, something that represents what I'm hoping for the future. So I'm just going to go ahead and start with maybe a house, because I've always wanted, I'm not actually in a house, and I would very much like to have one. I'm currently in an apartment, so I really very much would like one. So I'm just going to start with a basic outline of a house and some trees, because I very much would like whatever house that I have to have nice big trees. And just keep adding stuff to the outside that you think would represent you. So you want to have two very contrasting images. One in the center, fill up the space, and one on the outside. Again, fill up the space. I don't want to see any empty space on your project. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.